I really miss having a printer. And ink. Plenty of paper, though. Random thought of the day. It is the beginning of December, and that means it's time for another Q&A here on Readus 101. Like beforehand, if you've asked a question and it has been answered in a recent Q&A, do not worry, I will get to it eventually. Probably in January's Q&A more than likely. Which means for this video I'm going to be answering a mixture of questions from last month's Q&A and my 2-year anniversary one. So with that, let's get started. Liberus Lovestein asks, if you could make your own superhero or villain, what would their name be, what would their abilities be, what universe would they be a part of, and what would be their origin story? Now before I answer this question, I just have to state for everybody else that this question was not planned, it was not staged. I did not contact this specific reader in the past and say, psst, hey, ask this question specifically. I just want you all to know that in no way, shape, or fashion did I have any influence over this question at all. So, with that being said, let me actually answer this question. It's funny that you asked this question because I've actually done it. For anybody who's been interested in my overall writing career from watching my Readus Writes videos, or just interested in my writing in general, I created my own superhero novella series that's currently on sale on Amazon.com. And now you realize why I needed to put that fucking disclosure in this video. The series is called the Hero Series, in which case I created a universe specifically for my own brand of superheroes, because I fucking love superheroes. And out of the superheroes that I've introduced in said series so far, I have created Heka. Heka is a magic user that I base a lot of his powers and abilities and his overall look on Egyptian mythology, which is my favorite mythology in general. A lot of his inspiration is a mixture of Spider-Man and Static Shock, and in universe he's based in the city of Chicago, Illinois. He's a college kid that over a course of certain events that he finds out that Ra himself has chosen him to be the representative of Egyptian magic in the physical plane. And then there's the Innovator, my Batman/Iron Man type character who has a little bit of the 10th Doctor thrown in for good measure. And what he possesses is a key that he created himself that has the ability of turning anything into everything, if that makes any sense to you all. The only thing the key doesn't necessarily work on is organic materials, so human bodies, animals, things like that. But as far as anything else, he can just take this phone, just twist it with his key, and it immediately becomes like an X-ray device or whatever he wants it to be. It works like that. And because he's the Batman/Iron Man of the group, Abram Guy is a multi-billionaire owner of Guy Technologies, inherited by his parents, based in New York City. After the tragic death of his parents and inheriting Guy Technologies from them, he has an otherworldly dream that basically instructs him on how to create this skeleton key, and he decides to become a crime fighter. And then we come to my Superman/Captain America type character, the Man Called X. He's originally a detective in the Detroit Police Department named Thomas Milcrow, and after an incident on the job, he wakes up and discovers that he has powers based in telekinesis and telepathy. Realizing he can do just as much good with these powers, he juggles between being a superhero and being a police detective in the city of Detroit. Right now, season 1 of the Hero series is available on Amazon in ebook and in paperback format. And it's called season 1 as opposed to phase 1 because I personally like not having Disney take every cent that I own. And I'm currently working on the stories for phase 2, so look out for a shameless self-promotion video whenever I'm ready to produce those. Jamie Lee Bones asks, if you could live in any universe, what would it be? After giving this a considerate amount of thought, I have decided that the universe that I would want to live in is the Rick Riordan demigod verse. So basically the universe that the Percy Jackson books take place in, the Kane Chronicles books take place in, and the Magnus Chase books take place in. Because not only do I have to not worry about, pillagings and, bad shit happening every other day, or, never wanting to be in the fucking ocean in the Pirates universe, because why would you ever want to be in the fucking ocean in the Pirates universe? But at least in the Rick Riordan verse, I have the possibility of being a demigod without knowing it, having the potential to be an Egyptian sorcerer, or insert interesting thing about the Magnus Chase series here. Will asks, do you like any westerns? If so, which ones? Honestly, I'm not really into westerns like that, but one that I enjoy watching is the remake of True Grit by the Coen brothers. I thought Jeff Bridges acted his ass off in that movie, and it was one of the first movies that I saw that confirmed that Josh Brolin is just a bona fide badass. Carissa Carlson asks, do you watch anime? If so, what are some of your favorites, and what's my favorite Christmas movie? I'm not really that hip on the current anime train, but I do have my favorites. There's Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star, Ronin Warriors, Sailor Moon. As far as who I sided with between the war between Gundam Wing and Dragon Ball Z back in the 90s/early 2000s, I was a Gundam type of person. It was Gundam Wing that basically spiraled me down this endless loophole of Gundam series that I just flat out enjoy, with the exception of Gundam Seed. Fuck Gundam Seed. As far as what my favorite Christmas movie is, it's any iteration of A Christmas Carol besides Jim Carrey's. Not necessarily because I think it's bad, I just haven't seen it, and at the same time, I'm afraid to watch it. Azure Thoughts asks, do you think comics should be defined by superhero stories? In response, I'll say this. I don't think any type of medium should be defined by what is the most popular in said medium. I learned this specifically about comic books growing up with them, because when I was growing up, I would think that comic books were defined by superheroes. But then as I grew up and I learned that you could tell different types of stories through comics, I was like, oh, okay, so it's just not limited to superheroes. You can do anything you want. Which, ironically, is how comics were before superheroes, specifically Superman, came to the picture. There were horror stories, there were suspense stories, there were mystery stories. What do you think Action Comics and Detective Comics were publishing before Superman and Batman, respectively? And even slice of life comics like Archie comics are a thing to certain people. They're not a thing to me, they're not necessarily my thing, but they're a thing to others. So no, I don't necessarily think it's right, nor is it fair to just associate comics with superheroes all the time. You don't do the same thing for movies, you don't do the same thing for television, you don't do the same thing for novels, you don't do the same thing for music. And comic books is just another form of entertainment medium that's just helped us just spread to the masses different ways of storytelling. It just so happens that the most popular is superheroes. Logan Reed asks, what musicals have you seen, such as Singing in the Rain, and what do you think of them? I love musicals. I grew up on musicals because Disney, and it's because of Disney embedding this love of musicals into me, I do my best to try and expose myself to as many as I can possibly imagine. My two favorite Disney Renaissance musicals are Beauty and the Beast and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and one of my favorite live action musicals, stage play and film, is Sweeney Todd. Madeline asks, what are your feelings on the magic/supernatural side of superhero comics? I honestly feel that magic and supernatural elements in superhero comics is a necessity. Batman aside, some of my favorite superheroes are those who are regularly associated with magic. Captain Marvel/Shazam, Wonder Woman, Thor, Doctor Strange, Dr. Fate. It's an element that I not only always enjoy in a Marvel or a DC comic book, but one that I always get gravitated towards too. It's kind of why, as far as the MCU is concerned, I wish that they didn't treat magic or magical things in the MCU the way that they are currently treating them in the MCU. Because the way they treat it in the MCU is that magic is science that hasn't been explained yet, when in general it's just magic. It's just magic. You can explain magic without it having to be a pseudoscience, unless you're trying to actively not offend anybody. Which I think is what Marvel Studios tries to do. They try not to offend anybody, so they do this quasi-magic science shit to explain the reason why Thor is the way he is, or the reason why Doctor Strange can do the things that he can do, or other things, insert other things here, that aren't necessarily science fiction, but aren't necessarily science fantasy. Whereas the DC Extended Universe, despite how you feel about it, they just acknowledge that there's magic. They acknowledge that Enchantress is a witch, a very old witch that does magic shit. Both Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman and Justice League have stated that the Greek gods existed once upon a time. Like, they don't pull into that whole magic is just science that hasn't been explained bullshit. They just say that, no, this is magic. Gods exist. They're not quasi-aliens. They're gods. And they give birth to demigods when, Zeus gets horny enough. Or, he just decides to have this hidden child because we don't want to demonize Zeus more than history and mythology has already done. Mo Aragon asks, have you read Tolkien? If so, what's your favorite book from him? Also, do you like the Lord of the Rings movies? I will answer these questions in the order that they were asked of me. 1. I tried to read Tolkien. I think I tried to read The Two Towers in preparation before going to see the movie because I love the Fellowship of the Ring so much, and I just couldn't get past the first chapter. It was just so dense and it was so filled with singing. It's like I tried so hard, y'all. I tried. So yes, I own the Lord of the Rings trilogy in book form, but the only one I ever attempted to read was The Two Towers, and I haven't tried since. So I can't really say I have a favorite book, but I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I also side with those of the movie fandom that say that yes, the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy is a lot better than the Hobbit movie trilogy, but I did enjoy aspects of the Hobbit trilogy. I will say that as I was going to go see the Hobbit trilogy in theaters, that there wasn't that sense of urgency to see the next installment of it like there was in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but there was still excitement. I would also say that probably like a lot of you out there who are also writers, I got into writing high fantasy because I was watching the Lord of the Rings film trilogy. More specifically, the grand scale of storytelling, building characters, creating the worlds, establishing the mythos of like magic and shit. I would have to say that the Lord of the Rings film trilogy was a very key aspect in my overall influence as far as like the type of stories I like to tell. So with that, readers, your homework assignment for the day. If you have any questions for January's Q&A, write them down in the comment section below. And like I said earlier, if your question was not answered during this video, do not worry. I am definitely going to go back in previous Q&As and answer them in January's, along with the new ones that we get in this video. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.